we always like to talk about like what's happening in the world of like dogs and just local, not even local actually stuff that's happening, but just shed light on just what's happening with our dogs and animals and things like that. And there's a protest today. I don't know if you know about that at 3 o'clock.
I did hear about it.
Yeah, Miriam and Myra are going. Oh, actually, Myra's not going, but Miriam is going. And then we're going to be a part of the one in Sacramento on May 16th. It's a Friday. We're going to drive out there. We're going to leave early in the morning. Like when I say early, like 1 o'clock in the morning, drive out there, have our voices heard, and then come back. There was
What for our listeners, what is the protest about?
It's about what's happening with our LA County shelters. Mayor Bass is wanting to close down 3 of our shelters, one of them being the Harbor Shelter, which is San Pedro, the West LA shelter, and I can't remember the other one. I shared it earlier, and a budget cut of a lot of money, lots of jobs that will be lost. And there's already a challenge in terms of, and you know this, and if you even want to share about, the dog that you currently have and where you got him from, but there's a lot of challenges in our shelters currently. There's not that many people that are working there. They're understaffed, basically.
They are very understaffed. Yeah, it's and really who is affected by this is all of us. Any of us that love pets.
That's right.
The dogs and the cats that are there are affected. But the people that love animals, whether they're getting a pet from there or whether they're a donor or something like that, or even if it's just someone that cares about animal welfare, everyone is affected because when you hear these numbers, and they are staggering, and when you hear them, it kind of makes you just go, whoa, like that many? And then if
Yeah.
you take these shelters away, it's going to
Yeah.
be that many more. And it's just that causes just stress in the life of someone who doesn't even think it would affect them, but it can. My own dog, Doug, if you don't mind me rambling a little bit,
Please go. Please. We would
he
love to hear you ramble.
was 4 months old. They're pretty sure, based on where they picked him up off the street, that he was a puppy mill escapee. He and his sister were there. They don't know how long that they lived on the streets, but they picked him and his sister up at just about 4 months old. And that's kind of about the time that they were telling me, they were educating me that puppies often get dumped if they don't get sold in 3 months, that a lot of times the puppy mill will just move on and forward and they just kind of dump them out
Yeah.
in the street and fend for yourself. But our Doug is the sweetest pit bull, probably a Staffy mix in there somewhere.
And you got him from Carson?
I
Sorry
got
to
him from
interrupt.
Carson
Okay.
Shelter, and he hadn't been there for very long. They took him in, and he had been there a few days. They wormed him and fed him and his sister, kept him together.
Vaccinated him. Yep.
And then the day before we met him, they took him in and neutered him and put him in a different place. And then my husband and I showed up the next day and took him home. So he's probably reeling from a whole lot of changes at that point. But we just love him. Even in line waiting, someone else who had interacted with them came up and asked my husband if we would be willing to take his sister and let them have Doug. And my husband, of course, was already smitten. And he was like, oh, we're taking this one home. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but there's plenty of other dogs that they could adopt.
Right.
But it's so interesting, and I know we always do kind of get off topic, but when you said like probably maybe not a puppy mill, but probably breeders, and it's always amazing to me because I would say pit bulls and chihuahuas, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but are the number one dogs that are euthanized in our shelters. Close is huskies now, German shepherds. I mean, there's so many dogs. So you think, and a pit bull, like I'm a pit bull lover, Staffy lover like you are, and I met your
Right.
boy and he is precious and friendly and just like a goofball. He's everything that breed actually
Really
is.
is,
It
yeah.
really is, right?
Yeah.
But to think that somebody's out there breeding those dogs, that I would say they're probably the number one dog that winds up in our shelters, is just a heartbreak. So there's a protest today at 3 o'clock, and we talked about that earlier. There's something going on, like I said, in Sacramento on the 16th, which is a Friday. It's another protest. And basically, it's about us getting our voices out there, because to shut down 3 shelters in LA County it just can't happen.
Right.
We already have an influx of dogs in all of our shelters. I mean, there was a new law that was implemented. Shelters can now take dogs 24/7. You just dump your dogs there. And then the shelters actually, well, I read it somewhere, but and the shelters are only open for like 36 hours a week to adopt out dogs. So you think about the disconnect.
Yeah.
So we're just fighting for their voices, shelters staying open, not cutting the funding, getting more people into our shelters, even volunteers, like to come in and to be a part of the solution.
Exactly. I mean, if people want to think of it in the, most raw terms possible, reduced funding means more euthanasias.
Oh, for sure.
It's kind of a harsh way to look at it, but it's actually the most accurate way. And fewer places to take your dog to a shelter is more dumped on the street.
Dumped on the street. I was talking about the shelters that are going to be closing. And so the last shelter is West Valley that's going to be closing. And then my producer just gave me a statistic. So we have a 24% increase of animals being euthanized in our shelters. And I believe she said in 2023, is that correct?
Yeah.
So the highest in the past 5 years. And Jen, what you said about dogs being dumped on the streets, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. I said, honestly, I can see the United States, because it's not just in California. I mean, all across the country, we have an issue with, animals breeding. It just goes on, but just animals being dumped on the streets and them becoming feral.
Yeah, and they absolutely will. After Katrina hit down in the New Orleans area, and then I was in Biloxi, Mississippi for many months, and we saw it almost immediately. Dogs that could not find their families immediately formed into packs, and this was not a safe situation.
Yeah.
For the cats out there, the bunnies that survived, or for people that were walking along. You don't want to run into a pack that has.
Wow, interesting.
quickly-
You've never shared. We are definitely going to have you back.
Okay,
Because now
thank
every
you.
time we have a guest on, like you've already like shed so much light and like just interesting information that I didn't even know about. Like I had no idea that you were in Biloxi, and after Katrina you were there and you saw like the packs being formed with the animals. And that's what they'll do, and it's survival of the fittest.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. And when they're hungry, they're hungry, and they don't care that that was once someone's house cat or
They
a beloved
definitely
pet.
do not.
Like they got to eat.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
Red Cross is out there feeding the people, and God bless them for that. But there's
Animals.
there's needs, and that's why eventually welfare agencies like Found Animals and some other ones came in and started shipping them out, and then they shipped them to Illinois and to Los Angeles. Took a lot of them, but
Yeah.
then what we brought with that, and I know I'm getting off topic, so feel
That's
free
okay.
to
We always get
edit
off
me out,
topic.
but that encouraged the spread of heartworm out here, because in the South it's very rampant.
Yes.
And
And
over
we don't
here in the
treat it
West,
here.
we had less
That's right.
than 4%, less than 3%. So nobody was treating it, which is wrong anyway, if you ask me, because what if your dog is one of those 4%? Then it doesn't matter that it's only
Right.
4%. It's 100% in your household.
That's right.
So anyway, that encouraged
And you can
the
get
spread of
treatment
that.
for your dog that's heartworm, tick, flea, like the whole thing, like the pills.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
sure. Yeah. Okay. I mean, honestly, that's a whole nother topic that we will definitely have you back and talk about. But having you here, and even though we're going to be talking about nutrition and treats and things like that, but it's all one big puzzle piece. Everything comes cohesively together. It's like we have to make sure that our dogs in our shelters and cats and other animals that go in are being taken care of, so when they come out, they're not sick, right? And we need to stop breeding and all those things. So that's what we're fighting for. That's what's going on. So again, on the 16th of next month, which is May, Sacramento. And you can also call your local, the mayor. You can call, Mayor Bass, Gavin Newsom. Let your voice be heard. Myra has called several times. She said every time she calls, she gets a different person, and they're just saying, oh my gosh, we're getting so many people that are calling in because there's so many animal lovers, and we just can't see this happening in one of the biggest intake places in the country, honestly, LA County.
Absolutely. LA
Jennifer,
County has, oh, sorry.
You can go ahead.
Jennifer, you've toured the country a lot, right?
I've been around the country
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah.
Have you had an impression that certain states are not as tuned into spade and neutering as maybe other parts of the country?
Yes, and you see that a lot, and I don't have the figures in front of me, but it is interesting in certain cultures. So certain areas that have, different demographics, some cultures don't believe in spaying or neutering, and so you end up with, what I like to call is a good breed that you see a lot is part mama dog, part sneaky neighbor dog. So, you know.
My daughter, she just came back from Texas visiting
Uh-huh.
her friend, and she mentioned that her friend didn't really hear about spaying and neutering so much as a requirement.
In San Antonio?
Somewhere near there,
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And I kind of found that surprising because I, in my mind, thought everyone knows about spaying and neutering their pets, but
Right.
actually they don't.
And if was she in a more rural or urban area or suburban or?
I think she was pretty much in a small city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it wasn't like the sticks or anything. Still,
Well, I
right.
think it was outside of San Antonio.
yeah.
Okay, so outside a major metropolitan area, yeah, that you would think. But I think when budgets for marketing get cut, that's something probably like everyone thinks everyone knows. So they're like, well, we don't have to tell people this because everyone knows.
And
it-
that's such another interesting fact that you just said, like marketing, talking about it. And I guess because I grew up in Dallas, I lived in New York, on Oahu, and now here. But I guess we just take it for granted, And I know in the South, it's a terrible problem. Like the smaller rural areas in the South, it's terrible. But we are kind of digressing. But again, and that's okay because these are things that our listeners, want to know, they need to know. And our podcast is about honesty. It's about shedding light on what's going on. And honestly, like when we first started the podcast, I was kind of tiptoeing around like, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. But at this stage of the game, and even like some of our local news channels have gone into some of the bigger shelters like LA, oh gosh, is it what's the name of the shelter? It's like the biggest.
Pasadena one,
No, it's the
Oh.
biggest shelter that we have in LA. I think it's South LA shelter.
South LA, yeah.
They've gone in, they've interviewed some of the volunteers there. I mean, what's happening? And I actually sent an email today. I won't say what shelter, but they can probably guess. Because I've been really like on top of some things that are happening in some of our local shelters. But I also volunteered for 5 years at one of our local
Right.
shelters. And I just said, hey, it's not going to go away. Like what's happening, like we're not going to disappear. Like we are here and our voices want to be heard. And the only reason that we're even talking about this is because they can't say anything. These animals don't have a voice. And so when volunteers are being interviewed and they're doing stories and, it just goes on and on. So anyway, that's something that we'll follow up on. We'll have you come back, maybe talking about like your experience in the South,
Okay.
which would be great. In Mississippi, I would love to hear about that. So we just have to stand up and be their voice. And part of being their voice is about feeding them great food, right? Seriously.
Right? I mean, there's all these dogs out here. Let's make sure that they have lots of good food and treats.
And treats.